All right, and also we're going to record this session too. I'm going to post it up on YouTube if you happen to need to drop off or want to share it or want to listen to it, or again, need to drop off and want to listen to it later. I will have it up on YouTube. I'll share it with everybody that signed up for it. I ask everybody to mute your phone and or computer. That way you can unmute yourself and chime in if you'd like. If there's a bunch of background noise and have to mute everybody, then we're not going to get that interaction. Because again, this whole session, this State of the Union thing, it says used car manager, but basically any kind of inventory management, dealer manager, we want to see what's going on with the industry. We've got some people joining on here, and just wait for a little bit more. What's up, Tim? See you down there with the camera on. American flag, going proud. And
Merry Christmas, Jason.
yeah, Merry Christmas to you too. Happy Easter, right? So we're going to have one of the things I want to bring up. Okay, so we'll go ahead and start this thing. And is Paul Bridges on here? I'm trying to weed through some of these.
Yeah, I'm here.
Hey, Paul.
I'm on.
And Nick, I see you popped on. Nick, I'll make sure nobody mention about return policies with customers. But here, what I want to do first, because last week, this is a very popular topic. Again, we don't want to have, this turn into a vendor pitch commercial or anything like this, but this was seemed to be a very important topic for a lot of people last week. And what I want to do is share, hold on one second. I need to get, let's go to stuff. Paul, he chimed in, and he actually, this topic being, companies out there that help clean cars, and matter of fact, I think I was pulling this one too, maybe having hang tags that let customers know that the car is clean. This one, saying certified clean. So Paul, you're from Vanguard Dealer Services, and you guys have a product here to help dealers clean their cars for customers. Is that right?
Yeah, there's other products out there, but this is just a product that it certifies the car as clean. It's an anti-microbe product that you spray into the car, and it actually bonds. This product's unique because it bonds to hard surfaces and soft surfaces. Soft surfaces being the carpets and seats. So it'll also bond to steering wheels, dashes, and it'll last. They say up to a year, but we was saying 6 months, because then it gives you a chance to resell it in the service drive. So if people come in and want their car clean, you can spray this product in. It takes about a minute to dry and about 10 minutes to bond, and it leaves since it bonds to the surfaces, it leaves a protective layer there. So if any new viruses or any mold or mildew or any type of thing gets back into the car, it'll kill it on contact.
Oh, okay.
So it'll stay for a while. You can charge what a lot of dealers that we have across the country, because it's in a lot of stores that we have, they'll sell it in the service as the car comes in, pay for $29 or $39. We can certify your car clean. It kills the coronavirus and all, flu viruses and that type of stuff.
Okay, perfect. Because I was sitting there thinking maybe it's something that you apply, obviously, to cars on your lot, used cars and stuff. But right now, dealers, a lot of dealers just have their service department open, and this is another way to maybe generate some revenue for people coming in for service. Huh?
Yeah, and it's great for used cars because it kills all the smells in there. So if you have like a used car that's had a smoker in it, or if it's had water that's in there and it's kind of got a little mildewy smell, it kills all the smell. So it's good for, deliveries on cars as well.
Okay.
But service drive is where we're seeing right now. It's a way to add some revenue. Every 6 months when a customer comes in, you can say, hey, it's time for your car to be certified clean again. So you could add $15 per RO at least.
All right. So again, for anybody involved here, again, I wasn't necessarily given time for any particular products. There's no sponsorship or anything on this. It's just we had a lot of people reaching out last week to some of this stuff and of what to clean and how to clean or what products are out there. So here's one out there. Again, it sounds like a great product, not only for your current inventory, especially used cars, to be able, and if you're going to be offering deliveries or test drives to consumers' homes, it might be good to have some of this type of information in the car to let the customer feel safe as they test drive it or purchase a used car off you. So, and then obviously as a service add-on. So a lot of people brought up this topic last call. This just happened to be somebody that reached out. As you can see, one of our people attended, said, hey, you should maybe see if you can talk to the crew here. So that's one thing I definitely wanted to make sure we're covering. And then anybody want to reach out to them, here's some information, or let me know, I can send it to you one way or another. Now, the other thing, I don't know if I want to go down this path yet, but Cox, and I just shared it on Facebook. If you guys want to watch a video, it's about an 11-minute video. I went ahead and grabbed some snapshots. I'm just going to go through these real quick too, just kind of set the stage. I know one of my people that emailed earlier, Ryan Decker, he said he wanted to hear something positive. He's sick of the bad news, but I am going to cover this because I do think this is going to kind of set the stage of where our conversation goes, because obviously there's a lot of movement and or bad news happening right now. So let's set the stage of what's going on and then figure out, for the good news, what people are doing to get through that. So I'll share some of the stuff that dealers are sharing with us. But Cox put out this video. It's about an 11-minute video talking about what's going on with the market. Very informative. They've got a ton of data between wholesale and retail data. But one of it was customer sentiment. And obviously you can see that's kind of dropping. It was down 22% since March 1st. It's a 7-day average. So obviously customers are feeling a little bit down. And then you've got things like this. A third of the shoppers now anticipating vehicle purchase delay. Majority looking for alternatives to avoid visiting a dealership in person. And it went from 7% at the beginning of March to now 35%. Obviously, a lot of our dealers and a lot of people I've seen online posting things about how they're on record, having record months and record Marches. There's some dealers still out there, doors wide open and selling as usual. And I've seen some dealers share that they've had a record March, and some of those markets aren't as impacted as others. So again, don't take this as it just depends on what your market's doing and what adjustments you need to make, and all these tips and so forth that we're doing. Now, the other thing is even though a lot of dealership service departments been open, a lot of like appointments and schedules, I'm hearing a lot of dealers just, one or two scheduled appointments for next week. Nothing big. A lot of people, any of the small items, oil changes. Shoot, my truck check engine light was on for 2 or 3 days, and I was driving, and I'm like, do I need to take it in? I'm like, I got a warranty, so I could bring it in, but I didn't want to feel like messing with it, get into the dealership. I figured if it was still on after a while. And plus, if they need oil change and they're not driving much, they're probably just going to postpone that until they really need to have it. That's one thing I would tell you is I do think that the floodgates will probably open up for service when this all happens. When this all gets past and flips to the other side of the hill here. A lot of people delaying vehicle service. So you could say here, again, 5% at the beginning of March up to 37%. 65% prefer to stay home, stay quarantined. It's not worth their health right now to go get an oil change when they're not driving their car, or to get other maintenance, brakes and tires or what have you. So they're going to postpone that till they need to. And then that's the thing. Once they get back to work, they know they're going to need to make sure their car's taken care of, because they've already missed enough work. They don't need their car broken down or delayed. So in anticipation, I don't know how people are going to get back to work, if they're going to be notified saying, hey, we're going to open up our doors next week. We need you to start next Wednesday. And if that kind of stuff is happening, and here it is Wednesday, and they know they're starting next week, they're probably going to take that week to get all this stuff buttoned up, like take the car into service, go ahead and get the oil change or tires that they've been needing to make sure they get to work on time and not going to miss work. So I do see a big uptick in service work, and at least the small stuff, oil changes, maybe brakes and tires and stuff like that. Would be my guess of what's going to happen. And again, anybody want to chime in on this? I just want to get through this part, and then we'll open it up. But retail trend estimates on new. Again, this is just looking at the per day, year-over-year sales, same day of the week. This is Cox information on year-over-year sales. And now you can obviously see a drop off there. I do think as business opens back up, a lot of people taking advantage of the incentives. The only thing we got to worry about then is production and availability. And there is a comment in here, one of these emails I'm going to get to from one of our dealers that mentioned that. Again, I'm just going through the trends. Same thing with used cars, same day of the week, year-over-year sales. You could see negative 50% there. So obviously, this is stuff that's happening, not across the board at every dealership because of depending on the situation. One last thing, this is their Manheim Index. Again, what they look at is the last 3-year-old model. The 3-year-old model tends to be the most popular in volume sales through the auctions. And you can always see now, these are by the weeks. So 24 weeks, obviously that's 6 months. That's June. You can see June, July, usually May and June, things start dropping down a little bit. April, May, and June, the shopper counts tend to drop off. Traffic tends to drop off. So you can see where auction drops off here, picks up a little bit and, later, and then drops on down through the winter months. But they're already seeing this drop probably about 3 or 4 weeks early. So imagine what June's going to look like. So those are the things that are happening right now. These are the indicators that Cox, obviously, who has a lot of data and more than I do to be able to post this stuff. But I do want to get into one of the comments somebody brought up and about, especially like Ford. This is Keith Easter. I don't know, Keith, are you on the call? And because you sent me an email, Scenic Automotive, I don't know if you want to chime in or not. He just says he wants to hear how much people are adjusting their used cars with Ford saying that no vehicles will be delivered for 6 to 7 weeks. Any Ford dealers on the call here want to chime in on that? Are we seeing Ford warning that supply is going to be down? Anybody on here for that, or is Keith on? We know that the manufacturers are retooling. And we know that they're building other products for this. And so it's going to be a tough get-go to get back. So we know the new car supply chain is going to be a little bit low. And so my point is when things open back up, dealers will continue to do at-home deliveries and stuff. But when things back up and the incentives are still there and strong, if they're doing the 0% 84 months, I think the volume of new cars is going to pick up as long as the supply chain's there. And then the question becomes, and I'm wondering, anybody on this call, please chime in if they know, once the retooling's done, or once they're done maybe building out other things and getting the factories back open again, are they going to continue to build 2020s throughout the years? I'm assuming because they already have the parts and everything stockpiled for that, and build them out all the way through the end of the year, because usually by October and, they're September, October, depending on the model change, 21s should be coming out. Anybody aware of that kind of pattern coming ahead? I'd like to chime in on that. Service slides, these screenshots from the video that Jason posted on Facebook. Okay. So yeah, we don't know if, I'm reading some of the chats on here, if the again, the production, if the 2020s are going to be built out all the way to the end of the year before they even flip over to 2021s, I would assume that's going to be the case. So these new car incentives will probably last all year, which is going to increase trade-ins. On not only that, you got the lease returns coming in. You got the fleet cars coming in, and as far as rental fleet vehicles coming in. So I do think wholesale values are going to continue to hold off. And one of the things, I know, Nick, you're on this call, and I don't know if you want to chime in. Dealers need to really, consider the contactless or touchless transactions, right? We need to be able to do deliveries like that and be able to have the non-contact type of deliveries, and again, not getting tied up on return policies. I think, that's not a big deal. Be able to allow customer 3, 5 days, 7 days to be able to return that car. Those practices have been out there for a long time. The companies like Carvana's are being successful at that stuff. Is something to be concerned about. But what Nick was mentioning, concerned about going again against the new car conversation I was just having, what's going to happen to late model vehicles when auctions open back up? Okay. Obviously, anybody with 2020s, I don't know if loaner cars are going to fall into this. And then you talk about 19s, and I think it trickles down to 18s. I think this is going to be a big hit on late models. And Nick, are you on? Would you like to chime in any more on that and what you may be seeing?
Yeah, Jason. I mean, I'm on. I'm on right now. I mean, just a couple things to share with the group. I mean, I can't tell you how many phone calls I've been on, whether it's my dealer buddies for different brands, my 20 group, you know, our dealer association group. And in Colorado specific, we can only do transactions now online. So I can't have staff on site that's not necessary. I can't have customers coming in for test drives. So we're in a different environment. And so I've had a lot of dealers talk about, you know, trying to continue to do things in a fashion that basically we're not supposed to do it that way. So I told Jason that, you know, rather than get hung up on, you know, what we can't do, right? And some of you may still be able to do business as normal. We can't. So we have a whole process where we don't ever have to see a customer. It's a contactless transaction. We're able to go through all F&I products while the customer's at home. We're using Darwin. We FedEx the paperwork because we have to have wet signatures. The customer signs it, notifies us as soon as it's signed. They leave it outside. We drive the car up, wipe it down, leave the keys in the mailbox. They get the key. When we grab our paperwork and we're done. We don't worry about a right of rescission because I have a 5-day, 300-mile money-back guarantee, which I would encourage everyone on this phone call that, especially if not forever going forward, you should allow customers return cars just to give them a peace of mind. So we've been successful. We've sold about 6 used cars in the past 2 days as we've been able to get our feet under us with the government order and understanding what we can and can't do. We've got, you know, a couple things happening today. Hopefully we'll be able to sell some cars where the customer understands, and it's been pretty beneficial. So that's my spiel on the contactless transaction. If you haven't figured it out, I would encourage you to look at it. If you want to call me, Jason, you can share my phone, email. I'm happy to talk to anybody to share what we're doing. If you need help with it.
Yeah, and if you have any shout outs, again, he's from Rick and Baugh in Colorado, but if you have any shout outs of any, again, products that you're using, I mean, feel free to say, hey, you know, for finance and all the paperwork we do here, and, you know, is there any particular product or vendor that you're using to help facilitate all that?
Yeah, I mean, Darwin's a big help. I mean, I'm going to put automotive, they call it digital retailing, but it's not, right? None of these products are what I would consider digital retailing. Digital retailing to me is where a customer buys a car and they actually transact with the real price on the car they're buying. And as close as we can get, you know, obviously we have to confirm trade values, and I understand that, but as close as we can get to a trade value and then approve financing, all that stuff. We don't have that. What we're doing is we're using that as a catalyst to help the customer gain information, and then we are providing them all the information as far as their trade. We're doing evaluations, virtual evaluations.
Okay.
So we're asking customers to text us pictures, to do video walkarounds via either Zoom or FaceTime, whatever works best, and we're giving them values. And then we're going on to Darwin and then engaging in that way to do all the F&I process and sign all the documents. And then the last couple things, we have to have a wet signature on the retail installment agreement or lease agreement and the bill of sale still here in Colorado. So we're then sending those via FedEx to the customer to have a wet signature. Mm-hmm. So that's how we're facilitating it right now. And it's working beautifully. My sales team is hooked up on Zoom. If we need to do an interaction with the customer to face-to-face, we're using that technology. So that's kind of some of the stuff that we're doing. And it is picking up steam as customers start to understand that we can't have them here, not only for their safety, but for ours as well. And we need to limit contact, and they seem to understand that. And then they really get comfortable after you tell them, hey, listen, if you hate the car, we're okay with it. Just call me. I'll bring you your trade back. I'll rip the paperwork up. I'll give you your money. I'll come get my car. And everybody's happy. Yeah. And it seems to be removing a lot of apprehension that customers have because, one, they don't want to touch you or see you. They don't want to come in. And then they are concerned, what if I make a bad decision, right? Am I stuck with the car? And this seems to be alleviating that apprehension, and it's starting to pick up traction because I'm concerned, like Jason alleviated to, we're a big CPO dealer. We're all luxury. So I've got all these expensive cars. They're all late model. And I'm super concerned that my risk for a loss is going to be bigger than I could ever imagine if I don't move these cars.
Yeah, yeah. And two things I want to point out. pretty cool how you're doing the trade-in stuff, because that's just a little bit different. A lot of guys think they have to go get this guaranteed trade evaluator tool on their site that'll guarantee certain numbers, and those things are going to be helpful nowadays. Matter of fact, I said if there was a Kelly Blue Book buying thing in my market, I'd grab it up just to get to those customers. But the fact that you don't have that and you're still find a way with the Zoom and the videos or FaceTime and stuff and be able to evaluate a trade without needing one of those products, I think is pretty cool. A way to approach that too. So you don't need, and I've always said, the stuff that Carvana, and here's the other point, the stuff that Carvana does, every dealer could be doing, right? But the asset is your people. And even if it's touchless or not, there's just a lot of things that, and not only that, the service aspect that you guys provide. And so, like I said, it's pretty cool that you guys are figuring out ways and putting the pieces together to make this happen. The way you guys are doing that. And yeah, I would be worried about the late model stuff. Mike Cavanaugh, are you on? I know you jumped on here, but I don't know if you're able to talk or not. You and I were speaking the other day. You there, Mike?
Yeah, I'm on, Jason. How you doing?
Okay, good. And my thoughts were, because he's talking about CPO. Me and you were talking about the other day, and you mentioned it, about things that really people aren't considering. And my point was going to be leasing right now. Because, Nick, you were just saying, Highline cars, a lot of leasing and everything like that. With these huge incentives, and maybe, Nick, you can chime in, because I know you'd be in a Cadillac store and stuff like that. You got GM out there with the 0% and stuff. I don't know what the terms, if Cadillac's doing anything like that. Is that going to put Mike, you're talking about the fear years down the road. A lot of people might not be leasing right now when they get 0% for 84. And then those people doing 84 months and deferring payments probably won't have an equity situation 3 or 4 years, right, Mike?
Right. I mean, and not only just because of the incentives that are out there right now, but just because people aren't really getting a car right now in the same volume that they were the off lease market a couple years from now, 2-3 years from now is going to be totally different than what we've been used to. Liking it kind of after cash for clunkers a little bit. Just the supply of inventory is going to be dramatically less than what we're used to. We're going to feel the effects of this for a couple years.
I guess the only benefit to cash for clunkers is there's some nice vehicles in trade in that had to go to the trash, couldn't even be sold again, which was horrible. That now we at least can try to resell them. And I think there'll be a lot of people for these. Manheim's talking about how the cheaper cars volume will stay pretty steady because there's going to be a bigger need for those cars. So I guess that's one upside of maybe these trades. But Nick, are you seeing anything with the incentives that are causing people not to lease and maybe just go with the better incentives right now with the higher line cars?
Well, I think what we're seeing right now, and everybody on this call is probably seeing the same thing. I've never seen so many people upside down trying to get into a payment deferral or a long-term loan. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's dangerous. And the 84-month stuff, I mean, it is an option. It's not zero with Cadillac. It's like 2.79 or 3%, but an 84-month term is like a death sentence for a customer. Oh, yeah. So all of this just makes I'm looking at the total market, and there's so many different moving parts between loss of production, right? So the plants are shut down. So we're not getting any new car inventory. We can't buy any used cars because they're basically shut down there too. Demand is gone because we've just created, 20 or 30% unemployment, whatever the number is. And then at some point it's going to end. The factories start up. There's this big gap. So what's going to happen? Is my concern, because we're not going to have as many new cars, right? We're still going to have as many used cars. Then we're going to have these crazy incentives because everybody's going to have a number. I'm just really nervous, I think, on my end, is there's a lot of uncertainty. Are we going to see a $3,000-$4,000 drop in 2017s, 2018s, 2019s, that are now at the auction, or are we not? Are we going to see appreciation for cars that are 2015 and older? There's a lot of weird things that could happen. I'm most concerned really about late model CPO stuff. I think that stuff's a ticking time bomb.
Yeah, other than the fact that if they can give some good CPO incentives, which manufacturers would be smart, especially if people are less likely to lease because of the bigger incentives, other than the customers that are out around trying to get this extended even more and going to put them even worse out around, I think CPO is going to be the other good alternative. And especially if the supply chain's low, right? So if the supply chain's low and somebody wants this 2020 at 0%, blah, 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 but there's not any out there. You can't get your hands on some, but could you get them switched to CPO? Now, the traditional, I only buy new buyer, no, but I think, for the same payment or less, better warranty, everything else, and a shorter term, a CPO might be a better option overall for customers. So it depends on that interaction. And that goes to the point I got, Chris Little from Hendrick and Jason Pickering, and I got Tim and Mike Kavanaugh here from X Digital. A couple things that they brought up. One, Chris Little brought up, again from Hendrick Group, Google Business, making sure your listings are up to date, your hours, your store closures. I'm sure anybody on this call, personal life, has maybe felt like they needed to go to the store to go get something, but you don't know if they're, so you look at Google, it shows they're open, you drive there and they're closed, and you're like, what the heck? Google said they're open. So you need to make sure your hours are updated on your business, because your phone, when you go to your phone and you go to Apple and all this to, get directions, it's going to show it's open. Make sure all that's up to date. Your customers are going to get upset, especially if they've taken the courage, right, to go outside to come bring their car to get some brakes done or something while it's a downtime and you happen to be closed for those particular. So change it, get your website there. Again, I would say he was talking about reducing carrying costs. Back to your point, Nick, about this high average investment dollar stuff is going to be a lot tougher. I do think once they free us up from getting out of quarantine here, and I got the news going on over there, so I kind of peeked, and once they free up society to go back to normal a little bit, I do think the unemployment will tick back up. If a restaurant opens, they can't open with no employees. So instead of maybe they had 20 servers, maybe they bring back at least 10 or 15. Clothing store, if they're closed, Kohl's or whatever, if they had 50 employees, they might be bringing back at least half of them. So I think the unemployment goes down real quick once the floodgates open. Not as fast as everybody's back employed. So I think that comes back. But again, people are still going to be hesitant to spend a lot of money right now. So lower price cars. But it's all going to be around that turnaround time. This market's going to move so fast on used cars, and I think more of the depreciation part of it, at least out the gate. I would say if I was a dealer, and I'll get to somebody's comment here, they told their buyers not to buy anything at all. It was Ryan Decker at Herb Easley saying he instructed used car inventory manager not to buy anything at the auction. So I would stay lean and clean, and then even a week after the doors open, who knows if it's 2 weeks from now or a month from now, but I would, probably hold off, see how many people, because I don't think the supply chain is going to be low. That if you run low, and that's what he said, if we run low, we run low. I don't think you'll have a problem getting your hands on some vehicles if you happen to run low and business starts booming again. I think you can get your hands on some stuff. So, but get your turnaround time. Chris Lowell was talking about, if Chris, you're on here and you want to chime in at all, the first 15 days. So measure the market time to line, frontline ready stuff. Get so in tune with that process. He happens to use recon.
Jason, now we're on here. Tim Stevens is with me as well, but we've really buckled down in trying to get in that sweet spot selling range. And everybody jumps up and down for 30 days, but we're pushing our teams to do it in 15 days and just become fundamental maniac on making sure, because the shop is a little slower, that we get our cars frontline ASAP. And our standards 3 days or less, complete ad, fix, photo ready, to all the whole things. And we're trying to cut that down into pull a day off of it so that we have a go. Now, all of our stores aren't like that. Some of them are at 5 days, some of them are at 3 days, but we do have some works, and some guys are at 7 days. So we're really trying to move the middle of the pile of all 100 stores and trying to make sure that we get that consistently at 3 days for the company.
Yeah, and that's a big obstacle. I mean, it's a big thing to do. I mean, so think about this. If you're a 1-2 store operation, here's a group that has a ton of stores that have to get this lined up for everybody. And to be able to do, I know you guys use Recon Velocity, there's Rapid Recon, there's other recon tools out there, but definitely this is the time to invest. And I would say in tools like that, I mean, I even do it with our product. I say, hey, if you're interested in starting using a tool, I would do it now. I know we're cutting back expenses, but these are one of those expenses that I would probably do so I can fine tune my process in the slower time. When business is slower, when service guys don't have a lot of work to do, you might be able to get them trained up on this thing. So when you open the doors, like I said, I think service will blow up a bit when it first opens up. You got to have these processes in place. Is that what you guys are doing right now too? I mean,
Yeah, and I think what made it easy too, Hugh Hathcock, everybody knows him. He's letting Recon Velocity in your stores for free as long as this goes on. So to your point, we're developing good practices in bad time and really pushing this through. So it's not about increasing your investment. I really think it is an investment because if you can get really good at that and your competition's not, then you can stomp a mud hole in them and walk it dry.
Exactly. And you guys are a big operation that you guys can pull that off too. So being a smaller store can obviously, pull that off too. You just got to make sure you fine tune those processes, use the slower time to do this, get trained up for 2 or 3 weeks. I mean, shoot, any new product, regardless, it's all process management, and it takes weeks before that process gets fine tuned. It takes 2 weeks just to get really trained up on the system decently, comfortable enough to click around and use whatever system it is. And then it takes another 2 weeks to implement it and find the quirks and the things that you like and don't like. And so by the 4th, 5th week, you're actually have somewhat of a internal process done on it. And then that's where once you figure that out, then you start improving it week after week. But don't wait till the floodgates open up and go, oh crap, we need to start doing this. And then now you're back to that time. Well, I'm too busy for that. Yeah, I'd like to. We just don't have time. Now we do. Okay. And so I would definitely take a break. And then, again, I didn't want to turn this into any kind of vendor pitches or anything like that, but I do want to introduce products that I think will help dealers at this point in time. You don't get to have that face-to-face communications with customers as you used to, get the customer's feedback, get your excitement about the car and excitement about features as you're going over feature benefits of customers. So at Hendrix, I know you said don't let rookies answer your phone because customers are going to be very specific. We're going to have to communicate very well with them to be able to get that excitement and not just run it off a script, to be able to have feature benefit type conversations with these customers, both through emails and through phone. But you guys use Max Digital Showroom. I got Kavanaugh on here and Tim. I guess coming from the dealer end, what benefits do you see there? Because I've seen the product. It basically allows you to validate the pricing and the features and the work that you guys done on the cars. Am I correct? Does that help kind of validate a good deal for customers?
Well, what it does is it allows you to put your Peyton Mannings in play, and you can sit down and have really good citizens that can read and write and are really good, have some phone skills. But if you follow their program, and so we're able to take high quality people that are good baristas or good people, good citizens, and be able to train them using this product that if a customer calls in, as everyone knows, they know twice as much about the vehicle than probably someone that's calling in. And remember, with used cars, you have so many makes and models that you have to do, and they've been able to quantify that for us. And so we've been a 15-plus year partner with First Look at Max Digital, and so we have this in all our stores to help us give a Disney experience to the customer and really give the confidence to the Greenpeace salesperson that they're not going, oh, Joe, has that car got black interior or gray? No, it tells you exactly what it has. What's on a premium package on a BMW? And by the way, it costs $2,300. You know your schedule better than me. Can you come in AM or PM? I mean, it just gives you rhythm to be able to sell cars and be professional about it. And so, we're real high on these guys. They do a good job. They got a great staff, and they make you believers pretty quick.
Yeah. And again, that's coming from the dealer end of it. There's that product, and I don't know the similarities or not. There's obviously something like iAuto Packet. There's something other things out there on your website. But you definitely want to have some good content because you can't do the feature benefits like you used to. Even if you can, you got social distancing. How much from 6 feet can you really do some of this stuff? Mike or Tim, do you want to kind of add to that at all as far as any? I think you said that's something you guys are using to let dealers, if they're Max Digital, let them use it through these slower April, May times. Is that right?
Yeah, so I announced last week on this call that our latest tool, Max BDC,
okay,
it's sort of the second version. The if you want to take the digital showroom and put it on steroids, it allows a dealer who wants to put their foot in or toe in the water of digital retailing. It's a phenomenal tool. that we're offering for free right now. I'd be happy to share with anybody, but thank you for the insight there.
Yeah, no problem. Like I said, I'm just reading off what Chris said here from Hendrix, so I'm glad you guys are on to be able to back that up. So, Chris, you got Jason also said something about when will auctions get back to normal. He said there's probably seems to be a lot of buyers, but about, he's saying 75% no sales. And if a car doesn't get within 1,000 MMR, they're just passing on the bid. So it seems like everybody's floor is kind of high right now. No one's willing to drop their pricing. And then he also mentioned, I want you guys to be able to add to this, and then again, any dealer seeing the same thing. He was talking about, red lighting lower inventory with everything only being offered on simulcast. He's thinking, the not being able to drive or look at these lower price units before bidding is hurting the values in the lane. So he said last week, Atlanta took a beating on as is inventory. They did. So maybe offer him at least a yellow light would be best during these times. He was looking for some feedback on that, or again, Chris or Jason there, if you guys want to chime in on those concerns or what you guys are seeing and anybody else.
Hey, Jason, this is Jason Pickering. Yeah, I mean, what you read off is exactly kind of what I've been seeing, not so much on the acquisition side, but as far as, with Hendrick and our other, with the exception of Manheim, Charlotte, where we have the entire auction as our vehicles. In every other major area, Atlanta, Kansas City, things of that nature, we have a lane that all of our dealers will run through. And it seemed like in the last couple of weeks, especially in the Atlanta area, vehicles, because they're only simulcast and they're being offered as is, that the guy that's going to buy a $3,000-$4,000 car is pretty skeptical, I think, to buy it on the internet and can't see it. And then the as is, I don't know if that spooks him off. It might make more sense to offer some type of, at least a ride and drive type guarantee, maybe not a completely green light so the, arbitrations don't get out of gear, but to be able to at least give some type of safety net so that they'll at least pay for what the car is worth. And I've seen a big drop in those. Well,
again, and this is, I'm going to go off path, but bring it back. I was at a dealership. This was years ago when I was with Viato, and I'm strong internet background. Most of my retail years, I sold cars off the internet. So anyways, I'm Viato rep. I'm going into this dealership, and the manager's there bidding on cars simulcast. Okay, used car manager. Internet person comes in and says, hey, I got a customer here. They want to know their trade before they come in. Can you give me a value trade? No, just get them in the door. And the guy's like, no, they won't come in unless we know. He goes, just get them. You can't sell a car off the internet. Just get them in the door. And then I looked at the guy and I went, hold on a second. You're sitting there buying cars online. You're bidding on them, buying them online. And you're telling the customer he can't do that same thing, and kind of your point, and back to validating, the cheap cars, they're hesitant because they don't know if they could trust it, especially buying it as is. But yet they buy hundreds of cars all the time. Go back to the consumer on the retail end. Again, going back to the importance of things to be able to validate pricing and feature benefit stuff. Customers are hesitant and they only buy one car every few years. How hesitant are they to be able to trust the information that's there? So everything from Carfaxes or auto checks to any kind of validation on the car that you can give them and have an educated person be able to describe it to them is going to be so important. So again, I kind of went off path there, but going back to this point, these guys are probably, the wholesale values, those things are probably taking a hit because of these $3, $4, $5 cars that can't touch, feel, or drive, or start the car and see how things are. Anybody else seeing that? And there's anything else you guys are overcoming with that? I know we got a local company here called Backlot Cars, I think is what it's called, that helps dealers swap those type of cars to each other. Have you guys ever looked into that, Jason?
No, we haven't. I mean, we trade frontline vehicles amongst our own dealer group each week typically, but that's not as much on the as is. I was mainly speaking about the trade-ins that we're selling to the buy here, pay here dealer that maybe is definitely not as experienced or comfortable as buying online as we are as retail buyers when we're buying lease returns or 2, 3, 4-year-old cars, 70, 80,000 and less on the miles, with a good condition report. on the as is, we even put condition, we've gone in the Atlanta area, we try to put condition reports on every single vehicle, whether it's a $500 car or, you know, a $5,000 car. But what I've noticed is that the eyeballs are still in the auction lane, but the dealer that's buying that $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 vehicle is not as comfortable to hit the button. And I just don't, that they haven't bought a lot on simulcast, I wouldn't think, for an extended period of time on that demographic of car.
Yeah. Well, and that's, again, I talked to these guys at NAD. I don't know if this helps anybody, but because I thought there was some kind of partnership there as we're helping dealerships turn inventory faster, a place for them to replace it. But they said they deal with a lot of the cars sitting in the back lot, the $2, $3, $4 cars, I think, and to be able to trade those. And it looks like they maybe do some kind of mechanical inspection, stuff like that. I don't know. It just came to my mind as you're mentioning this, that might be a helpful source for some of these guys that you'd be able to get off of some of those cars. But and up until this passes, I don't know how they're doing right now.
Hey, Jason Rice, Nick Johnson, Luther Auto.
Yes, sir. What's up?
A couple of notes. Backlot cars and ACV have actually done a pretty decent job of still liquidating some wholesale. They do a little bit more conducive condition reports. So some of those small lots that used to always go in and touch the cars at the auction have a little more confidence in those CRs. They do a drivability. They do the engine sound. With ACV, they also have the 10-day guarantee that helps you get a little more confidence on it. We've had to go that way with Odessa and Manheim being shut down primarily in our market. So there is an option there. So it's even we're selling $500, $1,200, $3,000 cars, and we're going to be moving our way up. But it does still work if you guys are looking for options there.
Awesome, Nick. Thanks, bud. So yeah, I mean that's some options there for you guys to do that. And I'm gonna Jeremy Van Meter's on here. He sent me some stuff. He was talking about because let's go into merchandising again, making sure we're seeing a lot of vehicles on our end. And I do have a couple guys on my team. I know Anderson, you're on here. Gene, you're on here. If you guys want to chime in on any of this stuff, but we touch dealers' photos and descriptions and give a second set of eyes and make sure they're standing tall. Jeremy, who's with Rapid Turn, he looks like he wholesales or buys vehicles for dealers and help them manage inventory too. He's seen a lot of dealers not doing a good job with roof and nav, not being described properly on their listings. Also, he made a comment that cost to market not really rising that he's looking at, and so but price to market doesn't be changing much all either. So it seems like the dealers we're looking at least last week and this week, and again my guys who are on more calls than I am, seems like everybody just froze and said, okay, don't raise any prices, don't lower any prices, let's just see what happens. Gene and Anderson, as you guys are on calls, you guys seeing most of your stores doing the same thing? I know you guys might have to unmute.
Yeah, most of them. There's a couple that are still pretty aggressive in business as usual, but yeah, most of them are kind of putting on the brakes.
And Ruswick, you're on too. Your dealers doing about the same thing, right? Just kind of sticking to the pricing right now, not doing anything drastic, high or low.
I think it depends. Some are very aggressive already, but most of them are kind of realizing that 100% is not going to get it done right now.
Yeah.
They're 95, 96. If they're going to let it sit and not be open or not get traffic, I mean, I think reality is you have the only way you're going to get somebody's attention right now is digitally, and people have more time to compare, shop. If there are in the market, they got lots of time right now to go in there and compare you to 5 other guys where they might not do that, with normal day-to-day stuff. So they got more time on their hands. So I think you have to be absolutely more aggressive today. Yeah. If you want to leave it there longer, that's fine. But I wouldn't be more than 95, 96, 97% on the most right now, especially on high dollar stuff over 20 grand.
Yeah, and it seems like everybody last week just kind of paused. I think the guys that are aggressive still have market movement or moving. Guys that can't sell or limit it to just deliveries, and that's not a ton. I think they all just kind of sat, and that's where the cost to market and pricing to market didn't move, to your point, Jeremy. And but I think you give this 2 weeks into this thing, another, maybe this week, but next week I think you start seeing dealers going, all right, we're going to have to do something here. We got to get these cars moving, and guys that can still sell somewhat remotely, like Nick was talking about from Colorado and stuff, might just start getting more aggressive to start clearing some of this stuff out. Because again, once the gates open, I don't think wholesale, there's going to be a mad rush to the lane and everybody start buying up cars. I think dealers are going to be still hesitant. They're going to be like consumers are. They're going, okay, let's dabble a little bit. We got our job back. We got our doors back open. Let's see what kind of traffic we get. And if we start selling some cars, I always say, carry what you sell what you carry. Don't overstock in anticipation. I'd rather miss a few bucks by being lean and clean and didn't get to take advantage of this really low market. And because there's no low market right now at the lane. And everybody's just kind of freezing and like deer in a headlight, and then before they take off running. And I think guys are going to just everybody's going to be slow but sure to this market, both consumers and I think dealers should too. So I don't think the big wholesale boost is going to happen up until 2 or 3 weeks in it, and dealers are selling cars, and then they got to go back and replenish. So I do think within a couple of weeks, dealers might get aggressive on their pricing just to draw attention to their cars, try to get some out, and then probably anticipation that the market, they're going to be able to open their stores up in the next week or so and grab some of that attention.
Hey, Jason.
Yes, sir.
I don't, what I've been looking at and what I've been seeing has surprised me from the respect of, I understand where dealers want to stand pat. I will agree with John. I think if you're standing pat and you're 100% plus, I think you're kind of kidding yourself right now in today's economy. But what has surprised me is the standing pat, but I don't see any rise in lot ready inventory. So I don't think you can do both. I think if you're going to stand pat on your pricing, guys have to really focus on getting that inventory that's online up to 100%. If you have the time right now, and I know you mentioned this earlier, but I've been surprised at the dealers that I've seen that want to stand pat on their pricing and still have 78 to 80 to 85% of their inventory fully displayed online. That to me, if you want to dig in, that other 15 to 20% of your inventory is vitally critical right now because of all the people that are online looking. So the comments, the descriptions, the photos, making sure that those photos are standing tall, that you don't have paper formats in there, you don't have reflection of your photographer, all those things that we look for in that online display. If you're going to stand pat on your pricing, that's the movement that you need to see. Otherwise, I think you're kidding yourself.
And back to Hendrick and Chris and stuff, you're talking about the turnaround time and everything, all that comes into it. And, you're talking about the 2-week window, the 15 days and stuff. And we've actually, in our products, we switched everything from stocking and any of our stocking trends and everything to a 2-week window, saying, okay, looking at 30 to 45 day worth of data or turnaround, things like that, I think is going to be so obsolete here in the near future. Because think about it. If you look at May, let's say May, your doors are open and you want to look at 30, 45 day historical or market trends, there's no historical market trends in most markets. So that you're going to have to look at current sale rates, current sale rates and stocking levels, and get that turnaround time done so fast because you only have that 2-week window to really make those adjustments. And once wholesale comes back, is one of the things, if wholesale starts going back up, I think it's going to take, after doors open, I bet it takes 30 to 45 days before wholesale, you start seeing big movements in wholesale. I think you're going to see.
Jason, this is Chris again, but we have our own auction, as Jason Pickering mentioned, that stuff here. We run 400 cars a week out of that deal. It's Manheim runs it for us. But we have 500 plus buyers come look at 400 cars, and even to this day, and we typically sell at 80% plus out of that deal. And then this month or this past week, we've dropped down to 50%. So we didn't have 400, we had 300 cars, but we had 400 buyers. And there were 150, 160 in the lane, and the rest were virtual. So that thing's moving that way. So, your axe has got to get sharpened on what way you present your wholesale cars, that extra detail or that extra, cleanup before you get there is going to make all the difference in the world, because these guys are starting to graduate towards doing that because they don't have a choice.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of, they've got to learn how to do that if they want to provide for their families. So they're going to have to take some risks. So as much details we're putting in our retail, and I always say, retail is detail, and I think that has to apply to wholesale now.
Yep.
Is you really got to keep them high and tight.
Yeah, and to your point, I had a guy who said, because I was talking about even, second row captains, third row seating, things like that. You got to have in there, but have it in your auction stuff too. I said, take all the good comments that you've done if you've taken a retail piece to wholesale it, and get all that information in there. Because he brought up the fact, he goes, you know what? He felt the pain of consumers because he had a person that wanted to buy a GMC Acadia with second row captains. He didn't have one on his lot, so he went to the auction. He's on OVE, Manheim, trying to find an Acadia for these customers. He goes, and I had to freaking click on every single car, every photo, get to the photos to go see if it had second row captains, because I couldn't just search by second row captains. But I said, imagine if you did, if you had that content, and I don't know how the whole wholesale backend works, if you can look for specific keyword, type in or anything like that. But if there's those capabilities to do that, make sure those comments and everything are in there. So, because imagine if that guy's sitting there, he goes, I had to go through 100 freaking cars just to find anything. But if he could have first found one of those in the first search he would have done, it would have been a done deal. If it's a nice, clean car for the money he could have gotten it, boom, done. And you would be the one selling that car wholesale. So yeah, to your point, just as much as important on the wholesale stuff. And that kind of brings up this point of Bob Cochran. I know you're on here if you want to jump in, but you're wondering how inventory is being managed as far as aged inventory while dealerships are closed. So if you're closed, what are you doing with this aged cars? Just kind of letting it sit for a bit. Again, I think wholesale's kind of been stable. I don't think you're losing a ton sitting on it right now. I had Ty Bullard, part of the Joe Bullard group. He couldn't make the call, but he hit me up and said, and I don't know if he's on here or not, he wasn't sure if he'd make it, but he basically told me all of his age cars he does have online on OVE and stuff on wholesale. Obviously, I want you to retail out of everything and not wholesale at retail unit. But he does have them all out there, anything 45 days or older, at least list it for a price if somebody's willing to buy it that way or not. So that's one idea I know one of our dealers are doing. Anybody want to chime in on what you're doing with any age cars right now? You just, especially if you closed or minimal retail sales, you just kind of sitting tight on them. If anyone want to chime in on that. But I would agree with Ty if you're going to, maybe throw them out there on OVE and stuff and just have them for a number that you're willing to take. And if somebody's willing to gobble it up, let them. But also have your comments and everything standing tall in those cars. Got a couple more things.
Jason, really quick question. If you're a dealer and you're limited to the capabilities, like your store's retail sales are shut down, isn't your office shut down too? The ability to get this car billed out and off your books? I'm just saying, that's not.
I don't, you guys speak to dealerships just like us. I don't talk to the back end office. I wondered that myself because as a vendor, I'm like, okay, they'd be able to send me my vendor check and somebody.
The DMVs are closed down. So, we're in Manheim's and all these people are forgiven the 30 days and all this mess that you do to procure title. And so it's a prickly pear. To the point, our offices at Hendrick and all our locations, we went for the most part centralized. So we have 40 stores working out of one, or in the Midwest we'll have 20 stores out of that working. So our stuff's open, but getting it processed through the local DMVs because of the stay-at-home governor policies that have come out it hasn't yet become a problem, but if this keeps going, it will become a problem, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I know in Michigan, one of my dealers said, the DMV, the government basically said, you come to us with one, you're going to get your hand slapped. You come with us 2 or 3, you're getting shut down, or you're going to get going to get in trouble. So they can't even, sell some off the side, to the customers. Deliveries and stuff. So it depends on jurisdiction, I guess. And to his point, even if you can do this stuff, can the DMV or get the titles and stuff tagged, and that's going to be the other problems. Ryan Decker Herb Easley again. Used car sales this month, pace drop. New cars was strong with 139% increase. I don't know if you're on this call, Ryan, or not. Again, this is a guy with it slowing down. He said he instructed his used car inventory manager not to buy anything at the auction and to make sure that nobody leaves on an appraisal without him getting a second look and confirming that everything on the trade is done. So it sounds like he's still open, having customers be able to come in. Obviously, a strong new car. Ryan, I don't know if you're on the call or not. I could chime in on that.
I am, Jason.
Awesome. So you guys still staying pretty busy then, huh? With new cars?
Yeah, we do have a stay-at-home order in Wichita Falls. It's a town about 105,000 people. But car dealers are deemed essential, both service and sales. Service can be open full as usual, but sales is by appointment only. So we've reduced our staff, and of course we're heavy on the BDC, but we can set an appointment and the customer can come to the lot.
One of the things, Tim, I know you, Max Israel was asking about how dealers are dealing with fresh inventory as far as appraisals and the pricings of these units. And I would say with a strong 139% increase in new, my guess with these new car incentives on these 2020s, you might be even pulling in some people that bought 18s and 19s. I mean, are you getting pretty nice trades with these incentives right now? Because I would imagine anybody that's going to buy a car right now is probably somewhat financially secure, not getting laid off and things like that. So I'm assuming they have newer, nicer cars to be trading in. Is that kind of the case right now, or are you getting a little bit of everything? Ryan.
I'm getting a little bit of everything. Our used car operation seems to be trading for, your higher mileage cars, your 100,000 mile plus cars. Of course, the new car last month traded for some nice merchandise.
Yeah.
Today we've done sold three new Chevrolets so far, and each of them had nice trades.
And that's what I'm thinking. I think right now a lot of dealers, if you're a new car franchise with these big incentives, might not be buying a lot at the lane if you're getting some decent retailable trades on these new car deals with these good incentives. Inventory level's still good. I mean, are you, you're not, do you think maybe what's been allocated to you still coming in versus what your sale pace? And if, let's say you increase sales as this maybe pans away in the next 30, 40 days, is the supply chain seem to be okay for you? Do you have a 90-day supply, 120?
We're a little light in Chevrolet, but I'm not necessarily worried about it. Just from the standpoint of, remember, Jason, I took the store over January 2nd, and we were heavy, not just in pre-owned inventory, but also in new inventory. So I've been in sell down mode, and I am, as far as used cars go, I am right at about, last month we ended up selling about about 83 used cars, and I've got 75 in inventory after today's trades.
Okay.
So, and then on the new side, I've got about a 65-day supply.
Okay.
So I'd rather be lean than, I've worked at the stores for dealers that are, hey, I want as much inventory as my floor plan can hold, regardless of sell rate. And I'd much rather be lean than be heavy. And I've shared with you, I mean, my philosophy is I'm not changing a darn thing right now. Obviously, we got the chance of them shutting everybody down in the city. But I was just while I was listening to everybody, I was online pricing my cars. I'm gonna do business as usual. Pricing strategy is the same. Everything as far as the way that we're operating is the exact same way, regardless of sell by appointment. Do we have to deliver to somebody's house? I'm still operating internally as far as my normal day-to-day business actions the exact same way.
Okay. Well, a couple things I want to wrap up with. Recall Rabbit. Again, this is Mr. Granger reached out. I don't know if you're on here, but I'll just mention, I think this is another product that I think will help dealers through this situation. because it has to do with recalls, obviously. This is another way to generate revenue. We talked about it last meeting, to get your recalls done, maybe reach out to surrounding dealers. And I was saying go to Auto Trader with that year, make, and model that has recall. But he's got what the Recall Rabbit looks like, a program. They let dealers know what cars are sitting at other dealerships with recalls. We tell the dealer the recall information and the contact information for the store so you can get the vehicle fixed. So it sounds like, if he's on here or not, if you want to validate, but it sounds like it's again called Recall Rabbit.
Hey, Jason, I'm on.
Yeah, so basically a dealer logs in and you can kind of give them a list of cars that are surrounding dealers that have open recalls.
Yep.
Do all that legwork for them.
Connect to. I heard on the call last week some guys talking about how they're doing it manually right now.
Okay.
And basically, our tool just automates that process, tells you what's sitting around you, what the recalls are, and then you can modify it to if you're trying to figure out what recalls you're really trying to target, all that good stuff. So,
all right,
just a great way to connect.
Perfect. So again, good idea. I think that's the way dealers need to be really focused on right now. And it helps each other out, right? If I got a used car, I've been needing to get the recall done, but you don't have time for me and I don't want it sitting at your place for a while. It's a win-win for your dealer and the surrounding dealers, keep each other with some workflow. I left this up here again. I did last week's call is right here. So I'll post this week's call on here. I'll try to email it out to everybody. But if you subscribe, anytime I do lives and stuff, it'll be on here. These are all just quick tips. There's probably 200 of them in here, going back for 4 years plus. So some good information in there. Even the older ones are relevant to today. And talking about photos and descriptions, we really had, I think, a 2-part show talking about photos and descriptions. Even way back here to help you guys out, I got an independent dealer, interview. I got Highline Stores doing velocity sales. You got small town dealership and how he tries to staff and volume sales. We got recon information here. We got an interview with a service director with a 4-day turnaround time. There's just some good video tips in there. Again, subscribe there to get you some more information. I'll upload this call to there. Anybody else have anything to add before we jump off? I know there's some chat comments in the chat, but I won't read those all off or weed through them, hold anybody up. But anybody want to chime in, or maybe something that they put on the chat or anything else? No? All right. What I'll do is I'll probably try to do again another one this week. There's a little bit smaller crowd this week than last week because really nothing's really changed. So I'll get a good pulse, see if there's some movement. If nothing really changed, I might not do it, but I plan on doing Wednesday at 2 again next week Central Time. I like this core. It seems like we get the same core of people, so just plan on that happening unless I have something come up. And again, this is just a good platform. I hope you guys get value out of it, and you guys have been able to share some good ideas with each other. Thanks for big groups like Hendrick and everybody just chiming in. Luther, you guys are on here, and just everybody that's helped each other out. It's been great. So give me a call or email if you need anything. If you guys want jrice at Lotpop, if you want any of the stuff that we brought up, I can send it to you. That video from Cox is on my Facebook. I shared that earlier. Reach out to Max Digital or any of these vendors that you think bring you some value right now to get through this. All right. Thanks, everybody.